Mga ganong lalaki. Alam mo naman maraming manyakis dito sa paligid eh.
Lagi ang banggit po sa kanya is, ang taong tinakdang mapapahamak. Siya ang anak ng Diablo.
What it means to fear God, how we can grow in our fear of the Lord, and why it's so important.
Well, first of all, we need to look that there are different aspects of the fear of the Lord. The unbeliever should fear the Lord. In what way? As judge, as righteous judge, who is angry every day. So there's a sense in which, the unbeliever who's living in rebellion against God, who's not reconciled through Christ, for him to fear the Lord is to fear that aspect of his holiness and his righteousness that manifests itself in wrath.
Fail to understand is what we're going to be teaching today, that the justice of God demands that there is a payment for the penalty of sin.
We don't understand how good the grace is if we don't realize why we need grace. In Romans chapter 1, verse 18, it says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth." Romans 5, verse 9 says, "Since therefore we have now been justified by his blood, much more shall we be saved by him from the wrath of God. On account of these, the wrath of God is coming." Colossians chapter 3, verses 5 through 6 says, "Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you, sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and covetousness," which is idolatry. It's saying that the wrath of God is on these people. In the Old Testament, the wrath of God is a divine response to human sin and disobedience. Idolatry was most often the occasion for divine wrath. In the New Testament, we see that God provided a way to gain divine favor, repentance, which turns God's wrath away from the sinner. So the Bible definitely does talk about God's wrath, but let me hopefully explain why this is necessary and quite appropriate considering God's nature. Let's pretend for a second that God didn't have wrath or a response to sin. If you play that out, then we live in a world created by a God that doesn't care about the bad things that happen to you. Wrath exists because God is hostile to sin. He always has been. The wrath of God is simply his righteous judgment against sinful humanity. God's wrath grows ripe over time, like a fruit, and builds up over time, and it's controlled. In his perfect righteousness, he's perfectly wrathful. Because he's hostile to sin, it logically follows that he's not neutral to it. What I don't think a lot of people understand is if they understood the concept of wrath, then they would better understand Jesus and the atonement and why Jesus had to die to begin with. It all is expressed in God's perfection and attributes. Because God is perfect love, he must do something about sin, or else he wouldn't be perfect.
A powerful 7.0 earthquake has struck the Philippines island of Luzon. Landslides have been reported in some areas and a hospital has been badly damaged. A short time ago, the Philippines Interior Minister said 4 people had been killed and 60 injured. The quake was shallow, just 10 kilometres, and aftershocks have been felt 300 kilometres away in the capital, Manila. Well, these are some of the latest pictures. You can see people running from this bell tower 36 kilometres from the epicentre of the earthquake. President Marcos has ordered relief teams to the area and says that he will also travel there himself. Well, John Michael Mugas, correspondent for the Philippines Daily Inquirer, told us more.
A powerful 7.1 magnitude earthquake has struck the northern Philippines island of Luzon, killing at least 4 people. Officials say 60 people were injured and strong tremors were also felt through the capital of Manila. The quake also triggered landslides, damaged churches and knocked out the power supply. Rescue personnel have been deployed while blocked roads and damaged structures are being cleared by the local government.